All right. We are beginning the section on nuclear chemistry. Let's end with a bang. So, as we wrap up, right? This is what we've journeyed through so far, right? We started with thermo, we just last journeyed through electrochemistry, and we're now coming to our last bit of Chem 401, right? We're going to talk about nuclear chemistry. I want you to just look at these words, right? And think about the concepts and the lectures and everything you've learned, some of this material you've been tested on, some of it, think about the experiments you've done. And what I invite you to do is reflect on the fact that you've learned a lot, right? It doesn't mean that you mastered every one of these. I mean, it's your first time looking at it, right? Like, the goal is not to master it per se, but you've obtained some level of competency, right? You've gained some understanding, and just celebrate that we can move really fast through, like, oh, you have to learn all this material in a course. But I think it's important to pause and just in a course take time to acknowledge what you've journeyed through and all the things that you've learned, right? And give yourself a pat on the back because this is a lot. Each of these concepts that we've journeyed through could be their own course, literally. They could be a series of courses. So we've moved through a lot. You've learned a lot. And there's a reason that we're doing this now, right? With only 2 weeks left. So first I want to say that for choosing to stay in this course, I'm proud of you, right? There's always an option to leave, to drop, and for various reasons. And it's not necessarily like, I don't even view dropping a class as quitting, right? It's not about whether you quit or you didn't give up. It's simply that you're still here and you're staying and completing the journey, right? You signed up for this course, you're here, you're completing the course. And I have respect for each of you for choosing to keep showing up, right? Because you maybe didn't always want to keep showing up, but yet you have. And now you've made it over the hump. We only have a couple weeks left. So I just want to say I'm proud of you for sticking it out. I've been saying this all semester. Like, there's still time. There's still time. There's still time. We're almost done. There is still time. This I know is true. You can create a miracle for you. Don't quit before it ends. Decide now to finish strong. You all, miracles can be created in less than 2 weeks. So, what is the miracle? Whatever the grade is that you would like to complete this semester with. For most of you, I'll say this is true for most of you, because some of you that haven't turned in a single assignment, we have to have a different conversation, right? So I don't want to give false hope. But for those of you that have shown up, right, did the work, may not have been perfect, might have turned things in late, you might have missed an assignment, one or two, but that's shown up. You can create a miracle for you. You really can. You can literally jump a letter grade or two. It's literally possible right now. There will come a point where it's not possible, but you're in a sweet spot. You still can. And this is the moment where we can just tap out and be like, I quit. I'm just going to settle. Maybe I wanted to be in the class, but I'm going to settle for a C. Maybe I wanted a C, but I'm going to settle for a D. Maybe I really wanted an A, but I'm going to settle for like a B minus. You can really still get what it is that you came here for, right? There's still time. And thank y'all for listening to my song. I saw Wicked on Friday, and so I am just inspired with musicals, and I'm also in a musical. So yeah, thank you for not judging me. And if you are judging me, keep it to yourself. Okay, so this Thanksgiving holiday, was a little challenging, right? Just physically, I wasn't well. And I was reminded of my toolkit. So some of you might remember from the very first lecture where I talked about thinking about how will you stay well, and I gave some examples. Meditation, whatever, right? But the invitation was to be thinking about and putting into place things that will help you stay well as you embark on this journey of moving through Chem 401, right? In combination with whatever other classes that you're in. And I was reminded of this toolkit and how I had neglected it. Not all aspects of it, but neglected some of it for the past 4 weeks. And so this was a reminder to re-ground in that toolkit. So it was important not to be like, oh, I've been slacking. I haven't been working out like I should. I've not been eating healthy. It was like, let's just recommit. How do we stay well? We got this much time left. This is the things we have to accomplish. How do we stay well? So I just want to share with you the ways in which I stay well, right? These are some of all the ways that I stay well. And particularly the thing that I noticed that I had been neglecting was the ways in which I stay well that are practices of stillness, right? Like movement, like dance, exercise. Was doing that, that's good, but I noticed that I hadn't really been doing a lot of the practices to kind of just help me be still. And I've been just moving super duper fast, right? And so this is just here for you as just to share, right? Some ideas. I'm curious how you all stay well, right? What are practices and things that you do? You've done this earlier, but this is just an invitation to reassess, right? And also maybe to reassess of like what are just two main ones that are non-negotiable for me to finish this semester. It's not about what are all the things I can do to stay well. Think about what has kept you well and pick just one or two that you're like, this is non-negotiable. I must have this. Right? My non-negotiable is practicing grace and gratitude. That's my non-negotiable for myself. Because if I'm in grace and gratitude, all the rest of this becomes easy, and I'm resourced and fueled enough to show up even when it gets really, really challenging, especially when it gets really, really challenging, where you're like exhausted and still needing to perform, right? Still needing to study for tests when you're literally like, you feel like your brain is fried. That's when you want to dig into the toolkit and you want to figure out what's those one or two, just a few, because you're going to be overwhelmed if you try to think about all the things when you're already right at capacity. So just think of one. That's non-negotiable to recommit. And this is your extra credit activity, right? So I showed you an example. You can use that as an example and follow that same template. You can come up with something completely different. But I want you to just create one visual, a slide or something that just depicts how you stay well, but specifically, what is that one thing you're recommitting to as we close out the semester? What's that one thing that is going to allow you to transform in such a way that you are going to create a miracle for this semester with only 2 weeks of class time left together, right? So do that. Extra credit. So, introducing nuclear chemistry, even though everything I've been talking about up to this point is about what we're going to talk about. So we spend most of the semester talking about molecular transformations, right? Transformation just to transform, to change. Molecules are transforming, and for the entire semester we were looking at molecular transformation, i.e. chemical reactions, right? Such as this. You react methane with oxygen gas, you get CO2 and water. So the molecules have changed, right? But the way that they went through this change was through the electrons moving around in different ways, whether they were being shared to form covalent bonds or they were transferred in like acid-base chemistry or donated, like we've seen in redox reactions within electrochemistry. All of these different ways that the electrons can move around resulted in chemical molecular transformation, which is all the reactions we've seen up to this point. This last section, we're introducing nuclear reactions. And what's really cool about nuclear reactions is that when an element goes through a transformation, its identity can change. Whereas outside of nuclear chemistry and all the chemical reactions that we've talked about, the identity of each element doesn't change. The molecules change, but the elements are the same, right? Which is why we balanced the reactions. So this is not the case with nuclear chemistry. The identity of elements can actually change. So let's talk about or review what determines the identity of elements. So the identity lies within the nucleus, right? We've got the number of protons, which determines its identity. And in the nucleus, we also have neutrons, but these don't determine the identity of the element, right? So recalling our periodic table, we've got an atomic number. That's the number of protons. That's literally how we've classified the elements, based on their atomic number, i.e. number of protons. So even though neutrons are also found in the nucleus, and we're talking about nuclear chemical reactions, they don't determine the identity of the element, right? So carbon could have a different number of neutrons resulting in different carbon isotopes. So a term I want to introduce is that protons and neutrons together are called nucleons. So they're just like the stuff that sits or is located within the nucleus. So when we identify an element, right, this is the notation that we'll use. X is the element name, right? We have mass number, we have atomic number. So you've learned this, I'm pretty sure, but I'm reintroducing this because this is the notation of nuclear reactions, right? This is the notation that we'll use for nuclear reactions. So nuclear chemistry is basically the study of reactions that involve changes in nuclear structure. And these reactions, we have changes in the nuclei that change either the atomic number, the mass numbers, or the energy states. But the key thing here is that the identity of the element changes as a result of undergoing a nuclear reaction. So we essentially get transformation at the core. Transformation at the core by literally changing the nuclear structure. So this may be going off in your brain as well, but I think it's really cool that this is such a small part of this class, right? Like I mentioned, most of the class we were looking at chemical reactions. This 1 week we're going to look at nuclear reactions. What I want to highlight is that even though this section is a small section of the entire course, it's probably the most important from a chemistry standpoint, because we're looking at the core, right? And the core is where you can literally shift the identity of something. And if you can change something at the core, then things like molecular transformations and chemical reactions, and right, the metaphor for that is like our behaviors, our habits, our rituals, our routines. Those become easier if you can figure out how to get to the transformation at the core of you. So there's a reason, or let me tell you what the reason that I want us to start this section by taking time to reset. I need you to figure out how to pause for a moment. So for me last week, I paused for a day, meaning I did nothing productive that I was supposed to do. And let me rephrase that. I don't even like that language. I did nothing in terms of like producing something. It was productive because rest is productive, but I didn't produce something in terms of all the things that I had planned to do, specifically around teaching, right, over the Thanksgiving holiday. But, and I'm intentionally using but, the pause was so necessary, and it gave me what I needed to not just make it through the next 2 weeks, but to like finish strong. It's resourced me. It's given me the fuel I need. So it's especially in those moments where it's moving really, really fast, and you exams, it's all piling up, final projects. So you're like, pause, who has time for that? It's especially at these moments where you want to find a moment to pause. Your moment might be 5 minutes. Your moment might be a day. Your moment might be an hour or 30 minutes. But I need you to pause and figure out and allow yourself to remember and recommit to when am I most grounded? When am I most clear? How do I do that one thing so I can be resourced and energized to finish the semester how I want to finish it? For some of you, you might figure out how to like create shortcuts, and you might literally get an aha of like, this is how I've been wasting so much time with studying. I found that thing that is just, it's it for me, right? An example might be, I was trying to like focus on reading the book, reading the notes, reading and just eating the information, but really when I just jumped right into practice problems and I did practice problems for like a certain amount of time every day, this is really this is like the thing that helps me get the content in a deeper way. I understand it better, but also I'm finding that I'm saving time. So that's one example. For some of you, you might just need to take a nap. The day before the exam, do not try to study. You need rest. And then you can come in and that's going to be a game changer for you. But those types of insights or ideas don't come in. It's harder for it to come in if we're moving, and we're exhausted. So you get to find a way to pause so you can get the clarity that you need. Because it's going to take you right to the core of you, right? What is that one thing? What is that two thing that I can shift to reach what it is that I'm trying to reach? What's my end goal here? I hope that made sense. If it didn't, just know there's an extra credit opportunity, so do that. Nuclear chemistry, we're changing the elements, whereas every type of reaction that we've talked about up until this point, we've looked at the elements never change. We just shifted how the elements were rearranged to form the molecules. So that's the main three things from this video. And if you would want to talk more about other stuff, or you really have a question about anything that I've shared, come chat. Let's chat it up in office hours. All right. See you in the next video.